Welcome, welcome. We are mere days away from October, and it's so exciting. For most of us, we watch horror year round, but the regular people in the world are going to be watching horror all month long. And if you like horror, this is the place to be. The Horror Syndicate will have all kinds of great content going up. The website, thehorrorsyndicate.com, has tons of great stuff, as I've been sharing a lot of our past articles in the last few days. And apparently, the hottest topic right now is Sherry Moon Zombie. If you look at our Facebook page, people are going crazy on her birthday thing. Happy birthday, Sherry. I think most of us love you. But anyway, we also have October is going to be dedicated to the Universal Horror Monsters, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, which we're talking about tonight. We're going to be talking about Frankenstein next week. Or no, the Mummy next week. And which actually, in my opinion, while I like the original Mummy movie, I think the second one might be the best, maybe the third one. Can't remember offhand. And then Frankenstein, which is going to be a big episode because there's so many sequels. And that's the other thing. We're going to be talking about the sequels to these movies as well, not just the standalone single movies. So tonight we will be talking about The Creature from the Black Lagoon, Revenge of the Creature, and A Creature Walks Among Us, which I felt bad for the creature in these last two movies, and Revenge is a lot better than I thought it would be. So and really, honestly, I think it's almost even throughout the series because even the third movie is really, really good. But we'll get into that a little bit further. If you have not subscribed to the Horror Syndicate on YouTube, please do that and follow us on Facebook. We'll be doing horror movie Madness, which is a Final Four bracket style tournament, and we'll be the way I'm going to do it this year is I'm taking 16 movies from four different decades and I'm putting them up against each other. So we're going to have the 2010s, the 2000s, the 90s, and the 80s probably. And so all the movies from the 2010s will be going head to head. And the only one that's not going to be from the 80s, I mean the 2010s, is Evil Dead because it won the entire 2010s bracket a couple years ago. So Evil Dead from 2013. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff going to be happening with the Horror Syndicate, and we are like less than 500 page likes from 20,000, and I really want to get there. That is actually the original goal when we started the Facebook page. It's like, man, it'd be great if we can get to 20,000, and 6 years later, we're almost there. Yay! So anyway, if you could tell your friends all about us, this is the place to find great horror content. We've got great shows lined up. We have a lot of shows on the actual YouTube channel that you have not seen probably. So watch those and check out the horrorsyndicate.com where we all write articles. Seth has a bunch of good ones. I have some okay ones, and just a lot of great content. Jared and all kinds of other contributors with the horrorsyndicate.com that's been up for 6 years now. So anyway, we're going to talk about The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And well, I can't wait to dig into the rest of these Universal movies because, in my opinion, and Seth made a good point. In my opinion, October is the perfect time to watch these Universal classics. I mean, it starts, getting darker earlier. You start, like getting cooler, and the atmosphere within a lot of these movies is cooler, And so the end of summer has happened. Why not end the summer with The Creature from the Black Lagoon? So what I'm gonna do is introduce the guys. There's Seth Rooney. How you doing, my man? You're the one who came up with this idea. Tell me why.
Why creature now?
Well,
Why
no, why
creature?
celebrate Universal?
Well, just because the last couple years, the last 2 years that we've been doing this, we've dedicated October to the Halloween franchise,
Yeah,
and I don't know how some people do it. Some people have YouTube channels strictly dedicated to Halloween. And
Jimmy
they can,
Champagne.
yeah. I mean, and they're great, and I
Yeah,
watch them and I subscribe to them. It's just like I don't know if I could just talk mostly Halloween like all the time. I love the franchise and all, but I mean, the last couple of years of doing it, I felt a little bit of fatigue by the end of the month.
yeah,
And it just to break it up, and I think, like you said, the Universal monsters, or even I mean, Universal's like the lead in horror studio, pretty
yeah.
much. Maybe Nate can share that list that he
Oh
shared with
yeah.
us. Yeah, but the Universal monsters I definitely associate with October, and so I thought it'd be good to kind of break it up a little bit and talk about these classic films.
Yeah, and for those who do watch us, either while we're live or after the fact, because I know there are a lot of people who do watch after the fact, we will be doing a Halloween Ends review show on the 19th of October after we've all seen it. As far as I know, I am going to see it in the theater on the 13th. Seth, you're probably going to be seeing it opening day as well, and I bet Nate will be there opening day too. Nate, how you doing? Uh-oh. You there, Nate? He's got good lighting. Anyway, I wonder if he's going to get to say anything today. So, while we try to figure that out, Seth, let me ask you some of your first experiences with the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh man, I mean, I was real little. I think Creature from the Black Lagoon was like one of the very first Universal monster movies that I've seen, and it was one that my parents always watched, and so I grew up with it, and I've always loved it. I think it's definitely one of the stronger ones. This is where Universal was kind of segueing from their gothic movies into the atomic age.
Mm-hmm.
This was kind of like that transition. So yeah, I've loved the first one since I was a kid. The sequels I didn't see until I was a little bit older, and I do very much like them as well. So
Same here. I saw the sequels over the weekend for the first time. So,
oh, was it just your first time?
yeah, I thought
Oh,
I'd seen them. Yeah, well, I thought I'd seen them before. Like thinking back on I think it was AMC or TMC used to show these every October. Between the Dracula movies, the Frankenstein movies. So I thought somewhere along the lines I had seen these, and I'm watching Revenge, and I'm like, I don't think I've seen this. Especially whenever they get him into the SeaWorld type place and start trying to train him. I'm like, I don't remember any of this. And then the third one I watched, I'm like, what the fuck? I don't remember this either. So yeah, it was fresh for me, which is really cool. Getting to see a Universal movie for the first time ever as an adult and be able to comprehend what's going on, because back in the early 90s, um, they used to do on one of the local stations here, Channel 11. They used to have a special creature from every summer, like Creature from the Black Lagoon in 3D. And so they'd sell 3D glasses at the local gas station, or put them in, the local TV guide or the newspaper, and we'd watch it every time. So I've been watching Creature for a long time, and it's probably, I think Gill Man might be the most underrated of all the Universal monsters. It doesn't get enough love. So
it is a popular franchise though, which makes it even more odd that this is like probably one of the oldest franchises that never got a remake, or you know what I mean? It's just these three films.
yeah, I mean, we've seen other creatures like in was that one that Guillermo del Toro did?
Oh yeah, Shape of Water.
Shape of Water, yeah, and then of course Monster Squad had a really great looking Gill Man too.
Yep.
So Nate, can you say something? See if we can hear you.
Swipeflin.
Okay.
Am I good?
Your audio's coming through, yeah. So let me get your first impressions on the Creature movies. When because I think you might have been in the same boat as me, not watching the sequels for a long time, or not seeing them beforehand. But do you remember your first time seeing the first movie?
I don't remember seeing it the first time. I had only seen the first one until this show, so
Oh yeah, same
uh,
here.
yeah. So I'm new to the sequels. I don't know why. I think I guess because they came along later and they don't have that gothic horror vibe. I never got into them.
Yeah.
Uh, but now seeing all three of them, they are pretty tight. I mean, especially uh, the man in a suit, 50s horror movies. These are definitely amongst the best of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting thinking about time, because I mean, this movie, the first one was highly influenced by King Kong, obviously, it's the same story, really. And King Kong came out 21 years before this movie, and 21 years after this movie, Jaws came out,
Oh wow.
which is
Oh
almost like
wow. Yeah.
these creature feature, or like giant. And then like almost another 20 years, Jurassic Park comes out. So you got like this almost every 20 years, this kind of step forward in large creature nature against man type of movies, nature run amok kind of things. And they're all four of those are like pretty damn impressive on the scale of how advanced they were for what they do. Like King Kong is still amazing to watch tonight from 1933. This creature is incredible. Like just seeing him swim and all that. I mean, it's just like, wow, 1954, highly impressive leap forward. And then you get to Jaws, which changed cinema forever. And then Jurassic Park was kind of like, along with like Terminator 2, this huge leap of CGI and what could be done with that. And again, they're all in this 20-year. I don't know if there was anything after the 20 years after Jurassic Park. That would have been, what, like 10 years ago? I don't know if there was anything 10 years ago that was that advanced or in that lineage. I don't know, just something struck me when I was watching it. It was like, man, this is 20 years before King Kong, 20 years before Jaws. And they all kind of, those three especially kind of fit to me in a timeline in some way.
Yeah, the thing I like about what you're saying, especially, is in King Kong and creatures, but well, even Jaws, really, is humankind invading their home in a way. So how are they going to react? And that's one of the things I like about Creature is what do you expect him to do? Whenever people are, especially in the second movie, when they start laying those bombs in the water, what do you expect them to do? And
Yeah.
there's parts of the Creature movie that I don't know. I felt like very sympathetic to the Gill Man like throughout all three movies, even the first movie. Rewatching it because I watched it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then I watched it again the other day, but I fell asleep. That's why we watched the end before the show. And I like he kind of falls in love with Julie Adams, and you feel kind of bad for him in a way, like especially that scene that I call one of the most terrifying scenes in the movie when she's swimming. I think I have a picture of it, but when she's swimming and he's right there and she has no idea. In a way, this scene's very terrifying, but at the same time, from his perspective, if you look at it, it's she's new, she's beautiful, she's like, what is this, so I don't know. There's a lot to this movie, I think, more than maybe meets the eye. And I've seen this a lot. A lot of people like the Creature movies quite a bit, over some of the Gothic classics, which I'm a more Gothic classic guy, but we'll get to that when we get there, because we're doing two that are not Gothic, and then we're getting into Gothic with Frankenstein, and then Dracula, and then the Mummy. I mean, not the Mummy. What is it? Invisible Man. Sorry.
Invisible Man.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So Nate, you said you had some Amazon reviews. Can we get to those and then dig right into the Creature, and then we'll talk about Revenge and Walk Among Us?
Sure. Not a whole lot. All right. For the first film, I have a 1-star review. A very bad movie. Just a bad attempt to promote the evolution hoax.
Oh,
That's it.
I like it already.
That was it.
That was good.
This guy did not like evolution. He's like, there's no God in this movie.
Especially in 1954. Push that agenda.
Worse than it. Well, this creature is woke.
One of the first woke movies ever.
Although, not for women very much.
No.
All right, 1-star review. I think this lady was confused. 1-star review. My favorite movies. I love this movie. Have since I was a junior high. After lunch every day, we went to school theater and paid two cents for 15 minutes.
Oh my God.
So she gave it 1 star.
How old is she?
Nanny, you didn't get the stars right. 1 star. Awful. Doesn't hold up to today's standards. I was all right, this guy says the R word here. I'm not going to do that. I was constantly yelling at the R actors during the film. This girl's only lines are about 6 screams. He's not too far off, really. Every time she sees the creature. The people are so stupid. They don't stand watch to make sure the creature doesn't continually come aboard the ship, which he does. And they let him go in the end. The find of the century and also the proof of what happened to 4 dead crew members. That's pretty important. It's got a point.
Yeah.
That's it. Because they do. They're like, oh, there's a creature there, but let's go underneath and talk. And it's just like out in the portholes. Killing the crew member.
Well, that's one of the things about the Universal movies. I mean, especially movies back in the 30s, 40s, and even 50s. They're very wordy. There's a lot of dialogue in these movies. I mean, they're still in that stage where film is almost like a stage performance in a way. So they're and especially did they film that on a stage or was it on location? Creature.
The first one was shot on Universal Backlot. All the underwater stuff was shot in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. One more for the first movie. 2 stars. Even nostalgia didn't make me like this one. It's goofy, but I remember being scared as a kid, so we bought this to have for Halloween night as a little joke. Nostalgia is the only thing that kept me from turning it off. Then I have 3 for the sequel. 1 star. Want me to hold those or?
Yeah, hold those till we get there because I got the posters for the sequel. That's one of the things, by the way, I wanted to bring up was how lovely the posters are from back then. Some of these old posters, I love them. So anyway, yeah, let's dig into the movie. Like you said, they the finding of the discovery of a lifetime or whatever it was. They find the handprints or whatever it was of the Gill Man, and they go out to the Black Lagoon to to seek them out. I mean, that's a good enough story setup, isn't it? Like King Kong, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, the first 2 movies are pretty much King Kong. Like this is the first half of King Kong. They're going to the exotic location where there's this ancient thing that's been there on its own, and they find it and decide let's get it and take it back and get famous for finding it. And again, that's another storyline we see in almost not so much in Jaws, but in other movies like Aliens or something like that, where we need to capture this thing and profit from it or do something with it. But yeah, and of course, I think the original idea was based on Beauty and the Beast, which is still the same thing. I mean, even quote Beauty and the Beast and King Kong at the end. But it is essentially King Kong. I think the producer, forgetting his name, Alan, had come up with the idea, and basically he was making King Kong, but with a underwater creature. Someone had told him a story at a party about this race of underwater people. There's a myth or something that this guy was telling at a party, and stuck with him. And then he was thinking about Beauty and the Beast and King Kong, and kind of hired a writer to to write the script.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, if you have Preach from the Black Lagoon Legacy Collection, or I think it's on the other collection too, the newer one from a few years ago, there's a documentary about all three movies on about 35 minutes long. Did you watch that, Nate?
Yeah, the documentary about all three. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty good. You know, it was David Scaw, I think, did it. Wasn't he the one narrating it,
Yeah.
wrote
So
it? David Shaw was on there, and Bob Burns was on there, and all the who's who of classic movie monsters. I think maybe Joe Dante may have been on there. Drawing a blank.
Yeah. Might. I
Um,
don't remember if he was or not, but that wouldn't
but
surprise
yeah,
me.
it's a really good one. Like I think the most interesting thing I came across this movie that I didn't know until now was, and I don't know if I don't think it's mentioned in that documentary, but Rick Baker brought it up on a podcast, and someone had mentioned it, a book about Millicent Patrick. Did you hear about her?
Hmm, I don't think so.
Okay,
Is she?
so
Wait, is she?
she's the one who designed the creature.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
she was a Disney animator and actress model. And anyway, the guy who got all the credit for this creature was Bud Westmore. You know, the Westmores were like the empire of special effects makeup back then. Every studio had Westmore's, like he had all his brothers, and they, even today, you know, Michael Westmore is still like a big name in the effects business. But they were mostly known for beauty makeup, like making actresses look pretty and stuff. They
Mhm.
had like, you know, salons in Beverly Hills, stuff like that. So that's what they were. So he really wasn't a creature guy. And he saw her work and hired her. She would do portraits on sets of actors that she was acting with. And he had seen that. So he hired her to be on this project. And she basically designed the creature. She drew the sketches that it, and
Yeah.
then a guy named, let's see, I wrote down when we, Chris Mueller was the one who sculpted the creature. And apparently, like, they started promoting Millicent Patrick as like the creator of the creature, and Bud Westmore got really pissed off and kind of tried to bury her. And he started. Rick Baker said this guy was notorious for like taking photos with other people's work. So like he would like send everybody home, and then a film crew would show up, and he'd like pick up a tool, act like he sculpted something that somebody else did, and so she kind of got she was fired off her next movie, and she never did anything else again in the film industry.
That's bullshit.
But she fucking designed the creature. This son of a bitch took all the
Yeah,
credit
that's
for it.
bullshit. Holy cow.
Yeah, and you know, yeah, if you watch the movie, his name on the makeup effects. He's the one who got the credit. And she was kind of just no one knew about it. And this filmmaker wrote a book about her called "The Lady of the Black Lagoon," which I want to check out.
Yeah.
It's all about she found out about Millicent. She was like, wow, because she said, you know, all these little girls were robbed. She goes, she wanted to do makeup. She goes, but all the makeup artists, Dick Smith, all of them were men. I didn't see anybody that looked like me. And here was this woman who created the creature, and no one knew it. Like, no, it was buried. And so she wanted to tell that woman's story. So she wrote a book about it. She spent like 3 years researching and finding everything she could about her.
Yeah, the good thing is they did mention her and talk about her in that documentary, which because I was surprised to find out. I mean, I hate to say that I was surprised that a woman, because it was the 1950s and the way that things were back then. You are surprised to find out a woman created something as iconic as the Gill Man, and because I think they did interview her in that piece, didn't they? And she was very proud of
No,
of
I don't think she's in it.
it was something I saw. I swear I saw. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I know
But
they interviewed the Lee, Julie Adams, and what's Lori, the one that was in the sequel,
mhm.
the blonde. I know they were on there. Um, Which, if you really watch these movies, I mean, even like, especially the third one, the way women are treated, but even in all three of the movies, that was something that really struck me watching it. Was like, people, the monster kids shit on slashers, but slashers actually gave women something to fucking do in those
Yeah.
movies and gave them a story where all three of these movies are basically five dudes on a boat and one chick who's really there to be the piece of ass that the creature falls in love with, and all the men are fighting over.
Well, there's a
And that's what.
scene. Yeah, there's a scene in the second movie. He's like, I don't want him getting in my cake.
Yeah.
Like, what
In
the
the
fuck?
second. Yeah. Somebody's getting my Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
And
it's like,
that's how it was. Like, every movie was that way. It was like the woman. Actually, I thought Laurie had more to do than Julie did in the sequel.
Yeah.
I thought
Well, she was an
she had a
actual
lot more
scientist.
dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a lot more to say and do. Whereas the girls are basically there to go take a swim at some point and attract the creature to kidnap her. So by that, I look back at it like they were really male-driven stories.
Well, I would think, not think, but I would say all of the Universal horror movies are male driven. I mean, the women are there for, I mean, look at Dracula and even the Wolf Man, you know. I'm not to, I don't want, I'm not trying to upset Seth when I mention the Wolf Man, of course, because I know that that's more important to him than maybe even his kids. I don't know, Seth.
But kids, they're not the Wolfman.
But you know what I'm saying though, like women. I think it's just mostly. I hate to say this, and because it might sound like a misogynist, but I'm trying to be. But it's a very much sign of the times, like that's how it kind of was back then, I think, and it's a shame because there are some damn fine actresses like what's her name from the second movie, Lauren something or other?
Laurie.
Shit. Laurie shit.
Preston. I think it's Laurie Preston.
Yeah, she was really good.
I thought she was really excellent in it.
Yeah, she was.
I really liked the sequel a lot. The second,
I did too. I was
the
very
Revenge.
happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said at the top of the show, I thought I had seen it, but apparently I had not. So, but Seth, do you have any nuggets of information on the making of this?
No, not really. I don't really. I don't really know a whole lot about the making of these old Universal movies, to be honest with you. I just always, I don't know.
You're more of a story guy and what's going on. Let's talk about the story. Let's talk about the actors and actresses and especially kind of get into the two guys in the suit, because that's you got one guy on land and one guy in the water, and also the functionality of that fucking suit for 1954 is quite astounding. It's such a great looking suit, and it's very functional. I mean, they could swim with that thing on.
Yeah, Rico Browning, he was the MVP of these movies. He played the creature underwater, or the Gill Man, Gill Man creature, whatever. He played him underwater for all three movies, and he's. I mean, it's a tremendous job to do.
Yeah, I wish he was bigger so he could have played him outside of the water, because the guys playing him outside of the water half the time are doing really well. Half the time look like they don't know what to do. Like there's even one like in the second one where he grabs the girl and he's walking away, which is a different guy than the first movie, but it looks like they're trying to do something with their hands. Like it's kind of like that. What do I do with my hands? Like
yeah.
Like there's one where he goes into the water at the end where he's been shot and he just kind of like it just looks so awkward. It doesn't like I don't know what to do. And they said that the director really didn't give direction on what to do. It's just like, well, just be the creature. But the creature alone is really what drives these movies. That thing is so amazing looking. I just sit there and watch it. And the breathing and the like, holy shit, the throat, and the way he the mechanics of it, and then just the seamlessness of it. You don't see no zippers, you don't see nothing on this thing. No. It's like it's flawless. And when you see him underwater, you're like, how? Like you can see the gills flapping. He's all this. it looks so graceful and so almost lifelike underwater
Yeah.
that you're totally fooled. And I've seen these other movies from that time period, and they don't even fucking come close to this thing. And it's just astounding that, again, the guys who did the suit, the guy that made the suit, I also wrote his name, Jack Keegan. He's the one who made the actual suit. He used to make prosthetics for war, veterans who came back, who they had scars or, unfortunate things happen. They make prosthetics to cover up your face. And
Yeah.
he's the one that made the suit. And every shot that creature's in, it's just like, holy shit, man, this thing is still today's standards. It's impressive.
It really is. I mean, like you get something like let's talk about Batman real quick. Because I was thinking about this watching Creature and the cowl they put on him. I know it's a different creature and Batman's a human wearing a suit, but like the thing I always look at especially in the Dark Knight movies, is how big his fucking head is. Like from where his eyes are, it sits really high on his head. And like the thing about the Creature suit versus what Batman looks like, it doesn't look bulky at all. Like putting a suit on a human being, it's like with Doug Jones, how they did Abe Sapien in Hellboy.
Yeah.
It looks very like, natural and not. It doesn't look bulky at all. It looks really fucking good. Like when people put
that
on, it's layers.
Until we get to that third movie, I don't know what happened. They just feeding donuts on that boat trip, where he's got the clothes on and everything's burnt. It's like what?
That was odd. I mean, like I get part of why they did that. We'll get there, but it's like, can't go back in the water or something. Anyway, but that and Seth's absolutely right in saying that Rico Browning is the MVP of these movies, because I mean he's in that suit under the fucking water, a lot.
Yeah.
And there's some great underwater scenes in all, the first two movies especially, but he's definitely
his inclusion in the movies are just by happenstance. Like they came down there to scout the location in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Someone had recommended that lake or whatever it was. I can't remember. And he was, I guess he worked there, and he took them down there to show it, and they wanted to take some footage, so they said, well, we need a human down there to show scale. So they had Rico jump in the water and swim around. And they were like, hey, we like the way you swim. You want to play the creature in the water? And like, okay.
And he was awesome.
Oh, yeah. And talk about a scary thing, too, because to wear that and be underwater. Like, there was one story in the sequel. It wasn't Rico. It was the guy that played him on land. When he grabs a girl at the restaurant and jumps in the water with her, I guess the suit started filling up with water and he started sinking because he was too heavy, and he let her go because he was pulling her down.
Yeah.
And apparently 2 local guys who were watching them shoot jumped in the water and pulled them out and saved them. But the water started filling up inside.
I wonder where from. Because like I was looking at the suit today, and I'm looking at it and thinking to myself, like, because I know that like it's a cowl. Like, how does that stay, like, locked in so that water doesn't come in?
I mean, it may have been zipped. Like, I know Rico said if you notice when he's underwater, you can't see his eyes because they'd had goggles. He said he removed the eyes, so there's nothing covering his eyes when he's underwater. He said because once water got in there was no way to get the water out. So he took the eyes out.
Yeah.
Clint
Eastwood. I was going to mention Clint Eastwood is in the second movie, right?
Yeah.
There's a lab
assistant. Rats in that cat's belly.
Yeah. So, I really. That's the other thing about that suit is it's become very iconic looking, and I like the variations, like I mentioned before, that we've seen of the Gill Man type suit, like in Monster Squad, like in The Shape of Water. But there's nothing like this suit. And I know they changed it a little bit in the second movie, but when you think of the creature from the Black Lagoon, it's obviously going to be the first Gill Man that you think of.
Could you imagine someone as good as Doug Jones in that costume, though?
I know, and that's something that Seth mentioned also, is like this has not been remade. And I mean, that's who you'd cast, right? It'd have to be
Yeah,
Doug Jones.
you'd have to. I mean, I can't remember which was it. Was it? I'm trying to remember the guy that played him in the Monster Squad. I think it was. Shit, I've met the guy. I can't remember his fucking
I'll
name.
look it up real fast.
Carl something. Uh, but that Gill Man is amazing looking, and his
Yeah.
performance as the Gill Man was great. That's why I just like. There's some moments in the original movie where like Ben Chapman or whoever else was playing him on the land did good, but there's a lot of times where it's just really awkward looking. And you blame the director. I mean, these guys were probably hired because they were big guys. I think Ben Chapman was like 6'7" or
Tom
something.
Woodruff is.
Tom played the. Okay, I thought he
Yeah.
played the Wolfman.
Yeah,
I'm getting them mixed up.
Wolf or
Carl did the
Tybalt?
Wolfman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Woodruff did the creature. Okay, what's Tom? He's a genius.
Yeah,
Makeup
so-
artist and performer.
All right. So, Seth, you got anything you want to say about the suit? Because other than how great it looks.
Well, yeah, I mean, it really does look great, and I think it still holds up. And I feel like if they were to do a new movie today, it would be a shame if they even tried to alter it. Like, I think they could update it a little bit, but it's the creature design is just iconic, and it's like it still holds up today.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the way I would see them trying to update it would probably be more along the lines of something like in Monster Squad, where it's got the pointy predator teeth instead of the, I guess, lips. is that what you would call those on his face? But to make it more terrifying. But like I said, the creature, and his abs remind me of Batman Returns. Batman Returns.
It does.
So,
Yeah.
but no, I'd hate to see them make him more like I was saying before. I really started feeling very sympathetic towards the creature in all three movies, and you take that away from him if you make him more fearsome looking, in my opinion. John Carpenter was supposed to remake. Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
There's been a lot of. Yeah, go ahead, Seth.
yeah, he put in quite a bit of work. There was someone else writing the script with him. He hired Rick Baker to do the effects. Rick Baker actually has a bunch of sketches. You could actually find them online, where he did he updated the creature and all that. But I guess because I think Memoirs of the Invisible Man failed at the box office, and he was pretty much let go. But it sucks. I wish I could just open up a portal to another dimension, and just to the what if, and just see what John Carpenter's Creature from the Black Lagoon would look like. That'd be great.
That'd be
Apparently
pretty awesome.
Apparently there were a lot of. I think Peter Jackson tried to make one at one point, and Del Toro tried to make one before Shape of Water. They didn't want to go for it, so he made Shape of Water, went on his own because he said he'd always dreamed about the creature actually ended up with the girl, because he never did, and that's where Shape of Water comes from.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I always kind of referred to the Creature from Black Lagoon movies as or the creature himself, the Gill Man, as the horniest of the Universal monsters.
He totally is.
And
man.
then he finally gets laid.
Yeah, he likes the ladies.
Yep.
In white bikinis, white bathing suits.
Yep.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's pretty funny, Seth. Memoirs of an Invisible Man is one of Carpenter's movie I think is garbage. Even Ghost of Mars is better. I haven't seen Memoirs in a long time, but I remember liking it when I was younger.
I don't know. I think Memoirs is a fun movie.
Yeah.
It's nothing great or anything. But
No.
I think Sam Neill and Chevy and Dare are. It's a fun movie. It's a
no
nice.
Hollow Man.
No, it's the last of John Carpenter's lighthearted movies. It was one that it you know, it was totally a studio movie. Like
Yeah.
I think even he was a replacement director brought into that.
Yeah.
So you know, it's definitely not like your traditional Carpenter movie.
And you may not have gotten Sam Neill and Mouth of Madness if it hadn't been them.
I know, right?
Would have been a way different movie too if that were the case. Anyway.
Enough about Chevy Chase movies.
I like Chevy Chase movies. He's a weird guy, but
Me too.
other than that, Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon is better. I think that movie gets too much hate. I like Hollow Man. I was making a joke. Hollow Man's not a bad movie. Seth likes it.
I love it.
Yeah. Nate, do you like Hollow Man? It's just
I haven't seen since it came out.
yeah.
I don't remember it.
Isn't there like a sex scene where he's like
yeah, well, there's one scene earlier in the movie where he unbuttons a colleague's shirt and starts playing with her
okay.
breast, and then later on in the movie, when he kind of starts to really go crazy, he sneaks over to this woman across
The hot neighbor or whatever.
Yeah, the chick from Doomsday and Underworld 3, and then he rapes her.
Mitra?
Yeah,
Makes sense. Invisible Man is the true fucking bad guy of the Universal monsters.
100%.
Yeah. He
is.
He's got the most kills too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So,
Pretty psychopath.
yeah, I mean, I can't wait to talk about that movie for sure, because that's November 2nd, I think, is when we're talking about that one. So that's gonna be a fun one to talk about. I just need to get the rest of the movies, or do I need to? Because I'd even like to mention the 2020 movie, which I thought was really good. There's been a lot of different Invisible Man type movies, hasn't there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're talking about the Gill Man creature.
Yeah. I don't know if I have anything else to add. I mean, they're on just the films themselves. Like I did like Revenge. I thought, like you said, sympathetic. Like I didn't like the last one that much, but I do like by the end of it again how we feel about the creature and his his situation where he can't swim anymore. I take it that he basically walks into the ocean and drowns. I'm imagining when he was looking at the ocean and starts walking off screen.
Yeah,
he's basically walking to his death. Because I mean, where is he gonna? He doesn't fit in this world. He doesn't fit in this society. And
even if he wears clothes,
taken away his. He's been basically robbed of his home. He can't go into the water.
It's so strange that that there was a whole layer of whatever on top, and then underneath, like because the suit or the makeup or whatever was so bizarre looking versus what we'd seen before.
That was like the original design, because there was another design before the one that Millicent did, and I think it was that, because there's images of the Gill Man early concept suit and it looks similar to that. Doesn't have the gill little flaps on the side and all that. It was just very almost like an alien movie kind of look to it, and so they lucked out by getting her to come in and do her magic. But she also, again, I mentioned that she was a Disney artist. She's actually the one who drew what's his name, the demon character in Fantasia, the devil character.
The devil.
Yeah, like she's the one to illustrate animated that
on Gold
in
Mountain.
Fantasia. Yeah. So she worked on a lot of big things with Disney. She used to say she was the first female animator at Disney. I don't think that was accurate. But yeah, I definitely want to check out that book on her. But that was the whole. I got really consumed by that idea because I've never understood any artist. Yeah, Bud. I mean, it's really crazy when I don't know how anyone could take credit for somebody else's work. I don't know how you sleep at night. I don't know how you feel and I've seen it happen to other friends of mine. I've had it happen to me where someone's like, "Yeah, I came." I was like, "Dude, that was in no." That was, people have this. It's like they say when a movie is successful, it has a million fathers and mothers or whatever. When it fails, it's like it's that guy's fault. So everyone has to take credit for it. Oh, that was my work. That was I did that. No, you didn't. You did.
So, is there anything we want to say about the first movie before we do the Amazon reviews and talk a little bit more in depth on the second movie? Seth, you got anything you want to say?
No, well, I was going to comment on what you guys were talking about with the third film, but I guess I can wait till we get to that.
I like the little cave area that they end up in, where he takes her and goes into the. That was a cool little set. And I thought the acting was actually really good in the first movie. I didn't think there was any weak. Some of the sequels, there's some kind of, and there's some kind of really bad dialogue in the sequels.
Especially the second one, I know for sure. The
second one at the end, they had some really odd choices and odd dialogue and behaviors where I'm like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. There's some really, like, the stuff that people shit on movies today for, that movie was doing. But hey, people have nostalgia and charm for all of these films. So
yeah, but like I will say I did like the second one quite a bit. I was surprised at because there's always a not always, but most of the time there is what's your favorite line from the Lucas character?
I don't know these movies enough.
Yeah, I was gonna
dialogue.
say, Seth,
I've seen
I can't quote it exactly, but it was that scene where I can't even think of the character's name. The more dickhead scientist, he was trying to like tell them to not leave, and Lucas, like he kind of tries to get a little rough with Lucas, and Lucas just pulls out his knife and he says something to him, and he's just like kind of smiling. I don't know. I love that character.
Yeah. What a goon. So let's talk about. I got these great looking posters I want to show off. Revenge of the Creature.
I like a lot of the Revenge of the Creature artwork, and I just like the whole kind of. It's almost like Jaws 3. It's like the SeaWorld setting. Like it's kind of fun. Like I like that. Like the creature's loose. Like when it gets loose and it's walking around, and the little girl falls.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of cool stuff. Like that movie has a lot of cool creature moments.
Well, yeah, there's the first time it tries escaping, and then one guy jumps in with it. There's a lot of cool underwater stuff where they're training it. It's and that's where the sympathy comes in, because he keeps getting shocked with a cattle prod and I don't know. I like this movie. It's kind of a goony movie compared to the first one, but I still liked it. My boat is like my wife. She's not but much, but she's all I got. I remember that line.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's hit up those Amazon reviews real fast, if you don't mind, Nate. Get back to Nate's Amazon reviews. I need a sound clip for that.
All right, number one, 1 star, bad movie. The only reason I saw this movie is because it was on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
It was?
John Algar is a terrible actor, and watching this movie is like waiting in the lobby of a dentist's office, waiting to get your teeth drilled. 2 stars, nothing special. I watched this to see if the original film was the start of a series worth seeing. It isn't, at least for me. This turned out to be just your standard poke the monster until it attacks and gives you an excuse to kill it movie. And there are plenty of those. 2 stars, not the same. This movie is more focused on the humans in the story. It is not as suspenseful as The Creature and has very predictable plot. The movie standing by itself was a typical B movie. Boy, girl, like each other, capture monster, monster escapes and gets revenge. The end.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. But don't forget, there's another guy. So I still that scene for some reason sticks out in my head when they're walking and the one guy's wait for me or whatever. He's like, I don't want him to eat my cake too, or something like that. I'm like, Jesus, calm down, buddy.
That line shocked me.
Yeah, I'm like,
Seriously.
even for the
It's
50s, you know, like,
pretty racy, yeah.
yeah,
My slice of cake.
my slice, yeah, it's like,
Because he kind of is like, he's like, get the fuck out of here before somebody gets my ass, you know.
but the good thing is like she I don't think she was like playing, you know, like into their hands or whatever. She kind of was able to stand up for herself a little bit. She was a good character. Lori, what was her last name?
Yeah, I liked her. Was it Preston? I keep
Yeah, I
forgetting.
mean,
Nelson,
yeah,
something like that.
oh, she's beautiful. I'm like, who's
She's
this?
really good looking. I think she's more attractive
Yeah.
than Julie actually. But yeah, I don't think she was really in that love triangle. I think that dude was just like hounding around on her. Like that guy, I don't know who it was. The guy that played the competing guy. He kind of reminded me like he made me think he was like imitating Robert Mitchum most of the time. Like there was something about his acting style and his voice. Like this guy thinks he's Robert Mitchum or something. Which makes sense. I'm sure a lot of people tried to be him at that time.
So I was, you know, I pulled up that picture from Creature Walks Among Us, and I found this. And Seth, you absolutely need to get it. let me pull it up. It's newer. It's a action figure.
such a
Creature of the
such
Closet.
an odd such an odd choice. Like it just looks so weird.
It does.
They put
Like
clothes on
he
him.
looks like he
I mean,
belongs on the Enterprise from Star Trek.
why did they put clothes on him? Like did his junk pop out after he got burned or something? I mean, whoa.
It's
Well,
What are they
probably,
covering up?
yeah, I'm sure it
I
was
think.
cheaper than putting him in the suit, right?
Well, yeah, they didn't want to make another suit. For the real answer.
I mean, story wise, they do kind of explain it, but I don't know. I mean, we're that again.
We're jumping to the third one.
Listen, I am looking forward to talking about the third one because the third one I feel is a little underrated, and I even had a little bit of a bias about it because of the change in the design like a long time ago.
Yeah.
But like rewatching it a couple years ago, I have a whole new appreciation for that movie. So I am looking forward to talking.
Yeah, I didn't think it was bad when I watched the first viewing. I didn't think it was bad at all. It was definitely different, and I mean, I do feel like between all three movies, there is a kind of an evolution, you know, a very story arc with the creature, which I actually didn't know it was one creature until watching, you know, all three movies. But anyway, yeah. So I think Revenge is very underrated. It's kind of goofy in a way, in some ways, mostly dialogue and some of the way that the actors are. But overall, I think it's a pretty good sequel.
Well, my favorite's like at the end where he's like carrying her away, and the lynch mob or whatever are all like chasing him, and like they see him, they don't chase after him, they don't try to save her, they just wait for the cops up. He's there.
Yeah.
Like go help her. It's like they don't. There was just a really odd with the cops and some other things like
Yeah, the professor
choices that were made.
Giving the cops orders.
Yeah, like it just like this doesn't make any fucking sense.
And I tell you what, if you didn't know that those characters were scientists, they tell you like 50,000.
Oh my god! Yeah. not to mention that creature, the score. You hear that like so many times. It's like you are literally beaten over the head with it. It's like we get it.
And they have like the same end shot, don't they, from the first movie?
Yeah,
Kinda...
the creature.
Yeah, floating away.
And it's from the same director too.
Yeah. No, it's like
he's like, I ain't got time to shoot. Just throw the fucking ending of the first one on there.
We don't have time. It's not in the budget. Just throw the old one in there. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's definitely worth watching. This is a good trilogy, I think, overall.
Very good trilogy.
Yeah. I don't know why it took me so long to revisit, even though it's first time visiting the other two movies, but they're going to be something I go to every now and again because I do like them, and they do both work kind of standalone from the original movie as well. It's not like I'm one of those people like, and I hate this about myself honestly, is I can't just watch one. If I'm going to watch Empire Strikes Back, you better bet your ass I'm watching Star Wars first, and then go into Empire, and then finishing up with Jedi, and that's. I can't just jump in the middle of a trilogy or something like that. So yeah, every time I watch Creature from now on, I'll probably end up watching the other two. And I think they're a little bit longer than the first movie, aren't they?
I think they're all short. They're all like an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, which is longer than most Universal movies. You can fit 3 Universal movies in the time it is to watch one Star Wars movie almost.
Yeah.
4 of them if you want to watch Return of the King Extended Edition. Just saying. But anyway, yeah. So why don't we just move on to the one we definitely want to talk about because we can't stop not talking about it. Creature Walks Among Us. Another great poster, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. And Seth, I mean, I'll send you the link if you want.
I thought this one kind of had one of the coolest, if not the coolest kill in it, because I went back, I kept rewinding it. When he throws the lead dickhead like off the balcony,
Yeah.
because it's like they show him lift him up, you can see the wires on it, but then they cut to another shot, he just fucking torpedoes him off the balcony.
Yeah.
I'm like, that had to be a dummy. And I went back and watched, and it's a dummy, but it's like the editing is so good, you would never know. And I was like, he throws that motherfucker through concrete. I know.
Yeah, that was surprising actually for that year. That was kind of surprising to see that. When I saw that happen, I was like, oh.
I was too. That was me right there. I was on the boat.
So I had to make sure to get her in. I almost forgot last week. So, but I don't know. I think that like there's a lot of this movie, especially we talked about the ending when he's like staring off in the ocean, knowing that he can't, live the way he lived. Like he lived for how many, like thousands of years. Did they ever mention how old he was, Gill Man?
I think they made an
he was supposed to be. I mean, he's older than man, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's like
early. Not being able to go home and live your life, after. And I kept thinking about that. I'm like, I feel bad for him. Like this is terrible. It's like I was watching The Fly with 1986's Cronenberg's Fly with my daughter, and she was scared of it the first time we watched it, and then she watched the whole thing being almost 9 years old, and we were talking about it today because it was we were watching the 101 greatest scariest moments or whatever, and The Fly came up at one point, and she's like, oh, that's one of my favorite movies. I was like, yeah, it's scary. She's like, it's sad. I'm like, why is it sad? She's like, because he had to kill himself and this, and I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. She's like, it's a really sad story. Like, I never thought about it that way, and I kind of feel that way about all 3 of these movies. They're sad movies. Sure, they're terror films or horror films, but at the same time, they're kind of sad.
Yeah.
And that's especially the thing with the third film, because the third film, there's like 2 villains in it pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are the Gill Man.
No.
Dr. Barton and Grant, those are the 2 villains of the movie pretty much. And that's what I kind of like about it. And I think that's what kind of makes the Gill Man's story even more, I think, tragic in this one than the other 2, is because, like you guys said, he is robbed of who he is, what he is, what he can do, all for this one guy's goals, his dreams, and before I forget, to get onto the design of the creature for this one. So like I said, I didn't really care for it when I first saw it. I
sorry.
I don't think I would mind it so much if he wasn't just so bulky. He looks like fucking
He looks
like Dwayne Johnson, and it's weird.
Yeah,
because the idea that they were establishing in this movie was that what Barton was doing, his experiment, obviously because he wanted to figure out a way for, humans to be able to breathe in space. And so he did this experiment on the Gill Man, which triggered like an evolution in its own body, so it would be able to adapt and breathe above water. And so it started becoming like, I don't know why this creature was like evolving so fast, but the design was to make it kind of evolve into something a little bit more human, and less of what it needed to be to survive underwater. Now its body is taken the shape and everything that it needs to be able to adapt and survive on land. And in the process too, like the Gill Man doesn't know or understand this stuff. So like on instinct, after they first perform the surgery and he first escapes while Grant's trying to almost rape the wife, his first instinct was to jump in the water. And then, the one likable character had to jump in, save him, give him air. And even by the end, I don't think the Gill Man understood that if it goes back into the water that it'll die, but it's trying to get back to its home, and it was robbed of that. And I think that's what makes,
I guess, yeah,
that's what makes it more tragic.
Right. I guess
it's definitely the most tragic of the three.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, watching that scene when he's looking out over the ocean, I guess you could take that in different ways. But when I was watching, I just thought like, he's just devastated because he can't go back to the way his life was. But yeah, I guess I mean, it's another one of those that kind of has layers. And Nate, you're right. This is the most tragic of the three movies.
One of the things I like about him in this one was he has he's not just a mindless creature. He has more morality, and he makes choices, and he recognizes evil. He recognizes because when that guy throws Grant into the cage, say, "Here, kid," like he just bypasses, like, "No, motherfucker, you're the one I want to kill. Like I'm going to get you." He rips the thing. He goes after him, and when he runs into the wife and the good guy, he doesn't go after them. He like sees them, pauses, goes after he's just not a mindless, out of control creature. He's making conscious decisions based on people's actions that he's observed from his cage and from watching them and what they've done. He's like, this guy is no good. He knows that Grant's no good. When Grant goes in the water after the wife, when she jumps in, he's concerned and wants to go help her, So yeah, there's a lot of that going on in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I really appreciate this movie, because they do a lot with themes and parallels of philosophy, with Barton and with the Gill Man himself. I think this is a much deeper story than the second one. The second one, I like that movie. It's fun. It's like you said, it's better than Jaws 3, but I like that sort of that setting. But it was kind of thin, whereas this one I thought like had a lot more, a lot of deeper stuff going on with it. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie doesn't really involve the creature, but the creatures or the Gill Man is in the background. But it's like when Barton and the likable character, I forget his name, they're talking. It's like towards the end, and they're standing by the window, and you see the creature and the Gill Man in the background, and there's like that whole exchange of dialogue about, it's kind of like coded as they're talking about the Gill Man, but it's really they're kind of talking about Barton with how seeing everyone as his enemy, and stuff like that. I think it's just a really deep movie, and I think it's a little underrated because I think the big distraction with it is the change of the creature design, and I think a lot of the other story stuff gets
Yeah.
gets underlooked. But not to mention too, this movie is full of like characters who are not likable. Like Barton is a complete asshole.
Well, yeah,
as
you
he's
have
written.
clear-cut villains
I
that
mean,
they're
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
If you take out the creature in this movie, like I was watching it, like when he's kicking the guy out, like leave, get your shit, and leave. I was like, this feels like there's a noir film going on within this creature movie. Like it feels
Yeah.
like if you took the creature out, you still have this kind of human drama playing out that has nothing to do with this creature. You know,
Mhm.
it might as well be a gorilla in that cage or something, or something. Like it's just, and because this guy is so despicable, like the way he treats his wife the whole time, you're like, God, this guy's a douchebag. You know?
He's
Yeah.
terrible.
And,
He's
yeah,
one of the worst characters in the
he's
Universal movies.
yeah, he's awful.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's Invisible Man bad, but he's pretty
Well,
bad.
He doesn't
Give
have
this
the
guy
body.
invisibility, and
right.
yeah,
Nobody.
I just keep laughing. I was kind of making fun of this one. Watch it, like I was just like, why is there always like one hot chick on these boats with these guys? It's always the same. There's like 5 dudes, one hot chick, and like stay on the boat, don't get in the water. It's like, why don't you bring her along, man?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they even talk like that. Why is he? Don't get in the water. Don't do this. You're too far out.
Yeah, but I think that's like kind of part of his story and his character arc, with him being so controlling and possessive of her and getting
Yeah.
so jealous, and which everything, all of it kind of leads to his downfall. I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a classic again noir setup where it's like the boss's wife and
yeah,
everyone's trying to get a bit of her, and that causes paranoia in the boss, and
yeah,
now he's turned it against everybody.
yeah,
Again, it's got this whole kind of film noir plot line going in it.
Yeah. That's again, I've mentioned it almost every show we've had. This is why I like watching these movies and then talking to you guys, because I can see things from a different point of view, or a certain point of view. But yeah, I think you're right. When I watch this one again, I'm gonna definitely be thinking that way. What you're seeing, and looking at the towards the end scene that Seth you were talking about. There's a lot to think about with this movie. These movies are a lot deeper than what you see. The Mean Joe Grizzly podcast, definitely one of my favorite monsters. Yes.
And then you got the whole, of course, early commentary on pollution and things like that. Like
Yeah.
there's a scene where Julie Adams throws a cigarette in the water,
Yeah, and he kind of just lingers
and
there.
I'm like, oh, she just littered into the water. She just polluted his home,
Yep.
basically. What a piece of shit Julie Adams is. There's a lot of smoking. Of course, it's the '50s, and no one's
Yeah.
thinking about it. And I think I even watched it. Like they said, no one was thinking about pollution then, but maybe Arnold was putting that in there, in a way. One of the there's another story. I think it's the guy that wrote the sequel was part of the Communist Party and like gave up like 400 names in Hollywood. This guy just like totally ratted out everybody during
What?
that whole Communist
Really?
Party witch hunt. Yeah, that went on in Hollywood.
Oh my God. Well, it
Yeah.
makes 1956. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Damn it. Yeah. So I'm just gonna reiterate that how surprised I was by these movies. After I love the first one, I've always thought was very good, but the other two, I'm very happy I was able to watch this. Good idea with these episodes, Seth, because I'll get to revisit all the money movies as well.
I have a new appreciation for Creature from the Black Lagoon because I'd seen it maybe twice before this, and it never hit me like the other ones did.
Yeah.
And so watching it this week, I was like, okay, I haven't been giving this movie enough like fairness, I guess. Like this is really cool. And then watching the sequels, it's like, oh, there's a lot more going on in these movies. And even some of the other Universal sequels are not good movies. I mean, they're just not.
Yeah.
And these are pretty decent. Again, in a time where I'm not a big fan of the whole atomic age sci-fi horror
Same
guy
here.
in a suit monster movies. But these, if any of them are like as good as these are, maybe I'll give more of them a chance. I mean, you're not always going to get like. I mean, I think this is better than The Thing, and I like The Thing from Another World, but I like Creature from the Black Lagoon a lot more than The Thing, because it like to me that really was just a guy in a suit. Whereas Creature has some real elegance. Maybe it's because of Rico, but there are some truly beautiful sequences, even in like Revenge. Like I think part of me like was brokenhearted that he changes the suit and look, because the opening where like when he jumps on the boat, attacks them and all that, like, and the swimming around, it's fucking so cool. Like when he catches on fire in the first movie and this one, it's a cool graphic. Like these movies are photographed really beautiful,
especially for the year they came out.
Yeah, and the sequel, the first two are really photographed very well.
Mm-hmm.
Really pretty looking movies. So yeah, I don't have this set. I have the original movie, but I now need to have these two in my collection, and then I'll have all the
there you go, buddy.
Monster movies. Yeah, I need that one.
There's also the other set that I think Seth was talking about. I don't have. I have them on DVD, but I've got this is the newer updated sets. I have them on DVD, not Blu-ray. But yeah.
So I just got the Mummy. It's got the Mummy, but it doesn't have the Lou Costello and Bud Abbott movie on.
I don't think we're going to talk about that anyway.
Okay.
I think we'll just stick to the non-Abbott and Costello movies. If you guys
we got to do the Frankenstein one though. That was
there's 3 or 4 of them, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
I think the Mummy was the best one out of the.
Well, I started. That's something else I can bring up. I started watching other things like the Creature showed up on one of the Colgate specials that Abbott and Costello did, where Frankenstein's monster and the Gill Man show up on the, it's like, one of the television specials, and they call it the Abbott and Costello meet the Gill Man, or the Creature from the Black Lagoon. He just shows up at the end, but it's the real costume. And then I watched like the episode with Gilbert on the Munsters, where Uncle Gilbert shows up and it's the Gill Man. He's in that costume. It's totally.
It's a Universal costume.
It's totally that costume. It has to be.
Wow.
I mean, that's another thing I heard was there's not a lot of. The costumes didn't.
Was it this costume?
No, it was the original.
I'm joking. I can't get enough of that. I might order that action figure.
They said that the costumes were made out of foam, so they didn't last. They just fell apart and deteriorated. And apparently Universal tossed out the fucking molds just to make room.
Well,
I mean, it's just amazing. It's just amazing how once people were done with stuff, they just tossed it.
I mean, they were doing that in the 80s too. I mean, look at lost cuts of movies like Friday the 13th Part 7. So
I was talking to my buddy Derek, who's a makeup artist, and he's a big Frank Frazetta fan. And I'm a big Frazetta fan as well. And he went to the opening of the new museum down in Florida, and he's talking with Frazetta's daughters, and they were talking about how cheap he worked and how cheap he was, and he was painting a lot of those old classic paintings on masonite that he ripped off the floor. But she said that when he was done with a painting, and they photographed it, published it, whatever, he would paint white over it, the painting, and paint a new painting on top of it.
Wow.
And he's like, "You telling me that there's other paintings underneath this painting that he just kind of went over?" And that's what he did. He saved money, saved supplies, and
sounds like he saved a lot of money if he's using flooring, not buying canvases.
Well, so that's kind of how commercial art was then. That those men's magazines and all that stuff. Like once they published it, they just, I mean, there's so many stories of them throwing original paintings out in the dumpster back in the 40s and 50s because they were
That's a
taking up
shame.
room. And it's like,
Yeah.
can you imagine some of those amazing paintings of like, you know, Conan or Doc Savage or, you know, whatever, the Phantom,
Solomon
that were
Kane.
just tossed into a fucking dumpster somewhere.
That's a shame.
Because
Well, maybe somebody
it's
found them and
disposable.
saved them.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, even like William Malone, when I met William Malone, he was telling a story how this warehouse was throwing out a bunch of shit, and he went down there, and it was like set pieces from Alien.
What?
And they didn't know, like they didn't know, and they were just going to toss it. And William Malone's like, "I'll take this stuff." He didn't know where he was going to do with it, so he's like, "Don't throw it out." Like, you know, so he's got a bunch of like set pieces from Alien.
Wow.
That he just was lucky enough to catch. It was like the Halloween house. They were going to tear it down, and some guy's like, "Wait, what are you doing?"
You bought it for like $1 or whatever it was.
Yeah, and like dumped it somewhere in the middle of the night next to the hardware store.
Isn't it right across the street from there?
Yeah, it's the hardware store. So there's a train track, and it's right. It's like here's the hardware store, street next to it, and the house is right there on the other side of the railroad track.
Wow.
And then right behind that, the neighborhood right behind that is where the Elrod house is in the alleyway.
Oh, really?
Where Doc Loomis sees them. Yeah, I didn't know that. First time I went out there, I saw the hardware store.
So you
I saw
didn't
the
get
house.
The Elrod house then when you went.
I did on the second trip over because I was like, so when I was looking up, like, fuck, it's right next to the Myers house. It's like right down there. So.
So did you get to see? I remember when you posted the pictures a few years ago. I think it was in 2018, maybe. And you got the picture on the little place where Lori sits down. So you got to see the Myers house, and man, I'm jealous.
Yeah, that was when I went down for the. They were doing a screening of Leslie Vernon downtown LA, and they had the cast and the director and everybody was supposed to be there. The director couldn't make it; he had a family emergency, and Nathan couldn't be there; he had something else come up. But Angela and Ben and David and a few others there, and we did a Q&A, but we did a signing. The comic book had come out that I did, so we had a signing at Dark Delicacies, and so before I went to the Dark Delicacies, this is the day I got there. The guy that got me there, Russ Trout, he was driving me around, and he said, "All right, man, I'm taking you to see the Elm Street house." So he took me to Pasadena, and we saw the Elm Street house, and like, you know, a street or two over is the Doyle and Wallace house, and then he took me to the Meyer house and all that. So we saw like those, and he took me to that one where, you know, we sat on. I think it was the next day. I think the next day we went to the Strode house, and what was really cool is like the people who live there have pumpkins sitting on the porch, and they have a sign that says, "This is the house from Halloween. Take all the pictures you want. You can use the pumpkins for props. Just please return them."
That's awesome.
And yeah, so the people going out there, like the people who live there, are the ones giving them the pumpkins to sit there on the place. You know, it's pretty sweet. Yes,
I want to make it out there so bad.
There's so many things. Like now, I'm like kicking myself because I went to the Warner Brothers studio, which was fucking awesome. But I'm like, man, I wish I'd gone to Universal because I want to see the Psycho house. Like, I want to see that before they decide to tear that shit down. Because I know they just removed the Phantom of the Opera house that's been there since 1924. They had been preserving it. They're not throwing it out, but they're going to put it somewhere else. But they want the space. They want that stage, I guess, for other productions or expansion or something. But yeah, there's a lot of places I still want to see. And again, there's a lot of stuff out there. I saw Reservoir Dogs sets and Pulp Fiction, Drive, but I'd like to see a few more things from Halloween. I went out to the Halloween 2 hospital, and you know, of course, it's Rob Zombie's hospital.
Go out to Salt Lake City.
I'd love to do that. See the Halloween 4 stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 4, 5, and 6 were all filmed out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just watch Horror's Hallowed Grounds to get my fix. But yeah, I mean, I know Halloween and Elm Street are both filmed relatively close to each other. So one of these days, I want to make a trip out there so I can see. I need a picture of me in front of the Elm Street house before I die, or I'll have my kids take my corpse and take a
Yeah.
picture.
There's the new Redheads documentary. They ended that. I shouldn't give that away 'cause it's set out. But there's a part of the movie where the people go see the Elm Street house for the first time. You know, they're diehard Elm Street fans.
Yeah,
And it's really surreal to walk around those bushes and there it is. And it looks the way it did. You know, it's still got the red door and it's all there. And, you know, but the thing is, as cool as that is, to me, it's always, I get more chills at the less than iconic or obvious places. Like for Nightmare on Elm Street, the one that gave me the most chills was walking down the alleyway where his arms stretch out, where he's
behind Tina's
robbing
house.
Tina.
Yeah,
Yeah, when I walk down that, or walking down the Elrod alleyway. I mean, there's just something about that opening of Halloween too, and that point of
yeah.
view of Michael seeing Loomis, and I even got chills going to the like Halloween Kills and Halloween 2018 because a lot, like, especially the Halloween Kills, because all that's in one kind of neighborhood, like the flashback stuff, and some of
Hmm.
the ending stuff, and the park is all in the same neighborhood in North Carolina, South Carolina. I went to both of them like over a weekend, so I don't remember which state was which. But even them walking around, there's like, shit, there's that moment, and there's this moment, and this, and yeah, there's just it's a fun. I always say it's kind of like a scavenger hunt kind of feel where you're like you could spot something that was shot there 40 years ago, and you're like, there's the house, there's that building. Well, there, the Reservoir Dogs going into the alleyway where Harvey Keitel shoots the cops after Quentin Tarantino crashes the car. Like that was a cool little find that's like, wow, this is where this scene happened, and I fell in love with this movie, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. To be
Yeah.
there and know that, it's just cool.
I do
And
have filming locations from Escape from New York.
have you done the tour? Have you done there?
I believe there's a tour that actually happens, but I haven't done it yet. I'd like to find some of them. And now Delirium, you know. 'Cause-
Well, maybe we'll make a trip over there one weekend. You and I can go look at the Escape from
yeah, that'd be cool. And I'll
New
take you to a
York
Cardinal
sets.
game. So we talk
That'd
about
be
that.
cool because I'd be down for that, like the Escape from New York, because I love that.
Yeah,
And
I had these friends that I met at Star Wars Celebration 3 in '05, and turns out they do this a lot. They go to these filming locations, and they're big fans of Carpenter's Escape from New York. Not L.A. I love that video, by the way. I've watched it like 1,000 times. But anyway, and they came up, and my buddy dressed up as Snake Plissken and got pictures in some of the locations. It was actually pretty cool. I mean, they don't look like they looked in the movie, of course, but still
yeah,
pretty cool to
a
do
long
that.
time ago.
Yeah.
And they
But
dressed
yeah,
it. But yeah, just
we'll have to scout it
it's
out
like
and find
me.
out.
Yeah, like being there. Like I never thought of it. Like Stripes was shot in Louisville.
Yeah.
I grew up there,
Well,
and I
so
did all
was
this stuff.
Return
And
of the Living Dead.
yeah, and like just Return of the Living Dead was shot in L.A. Yeah, I almost went to the
Oh, it took place in Louisville. Yeah.
yeah, it's set in Louisville, but it was shot in L.A. Like I almost went to the was it Unita, whatever the place where
Warehouse,
they worked. That warehouse is out there. But yeah, like I'd never gone to any of the sets for Stripes until like this last winter. Me and my family went downtown, and I was like, well, here's where they went to the recruitment office, and here's where he drops the pizza in the alleyway, and
that'd be nice.
yeah, the whole opening shot in downtown Louisville where he's driving the taxi and all
Yeah.
that, and then they shot the whole basic training stuff at Fort Knox.
Wait, so that bridge is in Louisville?
Yeah.
That he throws his keys and
Yeah, that's the Second Street Bridge. That's the bridge that Muhammad Ali threw his gold medal in the river, Ohio River, off
Did
of.
anybody ever recover that?
Nah, I doubt it.
No, I mean, like that. I didn't realize it was Louisville in that movie. Stripes is one of my favorite Bill Murray movies. I've watched it so many times. I had no idea it was Louisville. I just assumed it was New York.
It looks like it where they shot.
Yeah, the way they shot it. Yeah.
But Louisville's got those old buildings like that. Where they shot it, uh, it's very old. I mean, Louisville's old.
I know why, but for some
Not as
reason,
old as New York.
it makes Anita look like a bigger bitch than if it was just Louisville, not New York.
Yeah.
Anita. Sorry, I love Stripes. I showed that to my kids recently. They liked it very much. Plus, PJ Souls is in it. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Sean Young, so she's a native of Louisville.
Is she really?
Louisville. Yeah.
She was something else. Remember when she played Ray Finkel? Remember that scene at the end when they reveal?
Yeah.
Made everybody throw up. I haven't watched Ace Ventura in a long time, but I just thought about that scene where him and Dan Marino are driving down the highway, and he's like, "Ace, where'd you get this gum?" He's like, "Stay out of my personal affairs," or something like that. Anyway, fun episode tonight. I really enjoyed talking about. I like talking to you guys anyway, even no matter if it's about these movies or whatever. But getting the chance to talk about some Universal stuff. I wanted to run this by you guys and see what you thought. But what would you say to when we wrap up our Universal month? Maybe listing them, making a top 20 Universal movies list, a group list.
I've been thinking about ranking them as I watch them, like starting.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing actually.
Like in my notes, kind of going through it. Right now, I think I've ranked the three that we've watched. They probably
in order.
I'd probably rank them in the order that they came out.
Me too.
Even though the third one does have a good story, I just kind of like the second one more for the. I just love that fucking suit. That creature is, and there's a lot of creature action in that one.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I agree.
And I like the lead actress in it, and but I do agree, Seth, that the storyline. If you're watching the movie, just wait for the creature and all that shit. You're kind of not giving it its fair day in court in some ways, because there is a lot more going on between the human characters, but at the same time, like they're talking about the humanity of this thing, but they're not treating it like there's that one conversation where I think it was when you said where they're looking out, he's in the window, and they're talking about being kind to it, just be nice to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're not kind to it. You got a lot like caged up with sheep or goats or something, like it's a dog or something out there, and this is a good. It is weird that we never really got more of these. Although, I think Shape of Water should qualify. I think obviously Del Toro's. I still think he's the perfect guy to take these movies on.
Yeah,
he's got such a love affair and style for it. I just don't think that Hollywood thinks that there's money in it, because he's tried. I mean, Shape of Water should have convinced people, but I think Shape of Water was kind of a one-time kind of thing, because I thought Crimson Peak was a wonderful film, wonderful throwback.
Especially visually, it was a beautiful film.
Oh, it's amazing, the sets and the creatures and all everything. And it like bombed, and he was trying. I remember when it came out, he was trying to resurrect that old Dark Mansion horror movie.
Well, I love those. Did you ever see
Dead
in Black?
Yeah,
with Harry Potter.
The 80 movie and the Harry Potter remake. Yeah.
I love the Harry Potter. Daniel Radcliffe. Sorry.
Yeah, I just don't think that a lot of modern horror fans are interested in that enough.
No, and I think a lot of that
will ever make a return.
No, I think a lot of that has to do with the 80s and what people expect from horror movies. A lot of violence, a lot of slasher. A lot of these movies. I think that's probably why movies like A Midsummer or Hereditary don't do as well, because there are expectations of this is supposed to be a horror movie, and I'm guilty of that too, because how many times have we said such and such movie is on my horror list? I'm like, is that even a horror movie? And I think that a lot of horror fans may mean, just look when we're starting the brackets for October because we do it every October. Just I guarantee with some of these 2010 movies, you're going to be like, oh, this is too artsy fartsy because I'm going to put Hereditary in there. I'm putting Midsummer in there because those are some of the best of the decade. So yeah, I personally, I love a gothic story, and that's why I probably like that's Crimson Peak's another one we probably should cover at some point. But like that movie really hit me where I needed to be hit for that type of movie because I grew up with Universal horror, but mostly Hammer, and I felt some Hammer elements in Crimson Peak, if that makes any sense. Victorian, and you know what I'm saying. So like, I'm a fan of that stuff, but I know a lot of people aren't. And I think I can understand why, and that's why people who may watch Universal movies today don't get them or think they're boring or whatever it is because of I'm just going to blame the 80s. I'm just going to go ahead and blame the 80s because, and think about in most horror communities, everybody's all about the nostalgia for the 80s movies, whether it's Friday the 13th or whatever's from the 80s.
Everybody's got a hard on for slashers, and it's like I'm a slasher kid through and through. I love these fucking movies, but Jesus, that does not define the horror genre.
No,
there were movies before Halloween and Friday the 13th in this genre, and for a lot of people, like that's what it is. That's what it has to be. Like you said, it has to be.
Most of us cut our teeth
on
violent slasher movies, though.
Yeah, I mean that's where But before that. Before the slashers, I mean, just like something like the Monsters that just came out, where people are hating on it's a piece of shit, and I'm like, this kind of reminds me of when I was a kid. My early putting my toe in the pool of horror was campy Universal monster type shit. The Halloween specials, or even like. Their variations of Dracula on Scooby Doo, or those like these characters and variations and variants of them popped up on like fucking the Muppets and Sesame Street and this Halloween special and the Monster Squad from the 70s and all these little things where like that it was always playful. It wasn't really well written or well performed. It was kind of really silly and goofy stuff, but it was like, oh, there's cobwebs, and it's like kind of like the horror host stuff too, like Elvira and all that, Zachary and all that. Where it's
Zachary,
like,
yeah,
it was just cheesy, campy, spooky monster fun. There's skeletons, there's witches, there's bats,
it's Halloween.
All the shit. It's Halloween,
yeah,
and it's not supposed to be, Hamlet. It's not supposed to be fucking Friday the 13th. It's supposed to be goofy shit and these iconic characters and Wolfman and this and that and that and you enjoyed it. And now no one wants to enjoy shit like that. Where they're like, it's awful. It's like, but it's not supposed to be anything but this. Like this, the Monsters was cheesy. It was fun. It was goofy,
cheesy in the
60s.
Campy.
Yeah, it was always that way.
And honestly, like I always credit Elm Street 2 as the first horror movie I've ever seen. But like I saw the Monsters way before I saw any horror movie. Same thing with the Addams Family. Those are maybe not 100% horror, but the iconography of what was horror in the 30s, 40s, and 50s are all there in the Monsters and in the Addams Family. I don't know. I haven't watched it yet, but I do plan on watching Rob Zombie's movie. And I mean,
it's not great.
Never judged it until I see it. So
it's not great, but who imagined it would be? It's exactly what it probably was always going to be. But it's so hard to remove Al Lewis and Fred Gwynn and Yvonne DiCarlo from those characters.
They're all dead, though, so you can't.
They're all dead, and it's like, and.
I mean, Gage killed so
it wasn't that high brow of humor and entertainment to begin with. It was
no. Well, I mean, they had Homer for fucking playing football in one of the episodes.
If you watch the movies, I mean, I was watching the show. It is just a bunch of like silly gags and silly puns and silly little things, and I love it because I saw it when I was a child, and
Mhm.
that's where it's already here in my heart,
Yeah.
and that's what I think a lot of it is. But I was like, I'd like to see what little kids think of the Munsters,
I'm
this
gonna
new
watch it with
one.
the kids
Like if
actually.
they've
Yeah.
never seen,
Well, I
as
mean,
long as mom and dad aren't in the back going, "This sucks, kids,"
yeah. Nick at Night used to show like 24-hour marathons of the Munsters, and I was always there for those. And I always loved it when they had to replace the cousin. What was her name? The regular one. Did we lose Nate?
Yeah, he's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen. He went pretty good for a while, and then all of a sudden he froze in a smile. All right. Anyway, are you gonna watch the Munsters?
No, I have no.
No.
Not at
Okay.
all. No.
What are you gonna say?
Well, just going back to you mentioned something about doing list.
Mm-hmm.
Last year I did a ranking of all the Universal monster movies,
Yeah.
excluding the Abbott and Costello ones.
Yeah.
So
I remember that because you challenged me to do it, and I was like, I don't think I can do that. But after we watch all these, I'd like to do a show where we do a ranking of all these movies. That's where I was getting to on that. Nate, you're back. So anyway, next week we're going to talk about The Mummy. You guys excited about talking about The Mummy? Huh? The Mummy? Wait,
I'm shit.
that's not the right one.
I'll be in the same boat. I've only seen the first movie. I've not seen the sequels. I just got them. So
I've seen The Mummy's Hand and The Mummy's Tomb, and one of them is better than the original movie. I can't remember which one it is.
I'm
though. I
hoping
think
The
because
Mummy's
I've never
Hand.
been a
it's The Mummy's
I've never
Hand.
been a big fan of the Mummy. I always thought it was kind of dull as shit, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I have a whole new experience seeing it on the big screen Saturday, and
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
because that can make a difference.
Well,
I think the makeup in the Mummy is incredible.
yeah. I was gonna say
Always
there's
has
three
been.
three things that always stood out to me with this movie is the score, Karloff's performance, and the makeup. So I prefer the Peter Cushing 1958 Mummy or 1959
Yeah, that's a
over
good one.
the Universal. But yeah, like Seth said, the Mummy's Hand I believe is the better. It starts with Karis, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The sequels is where you get the more traditional, like what you would expect when you think of the Mummy.
Yeah.
Wrapped in bandages the
I
whole
mean,
time.
you,
With the
yeah,
first
you
one,
barely got this look, even though it looks amazing.
yeah, he was only like that in the beginning, but
Yeah.
then like the rest of the movie is definitely like more of like a dark romance.
Yeah.
With a great score. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it too because I've only seen the first couple because after I think it was the third one that I saw that kind of lost me and I lost interest and there's two more after that. So
The third one, the Mummy's Tomb, is like it's kind of annoying because like when it starts off, it's like it's mostly like a character from the previous movie telling a story to his kids.
yeah.
And so it's like a clip show for a decent chunk of it where you see stuff you've already seen before.
So it's like Silent Night, Deadly Night 2.
Not as bad.
Not as
I mean,
bad.
and it was understandable, for them to do that back then because you saw it in the theater, or you didn't see it at all.
Yeah, if you missed it, you missed it. So you need to get caught up.
Yeah, but like I could see someone making the case where the Mummy's Tomb is their favorite, because the Mummy's Hand has a lot of, it does have quite a bit of comedy and slapstick to it, but I prefer Karis over Emotep.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm looking forward to dipping into the. I may watch The Mummy tonight. Although I'm in a Rob Zombie mood after watching Lords of Salem last night. I love that movie. I watched that last night and I was like, man, we should talk about this. And I'm like, I think we did already.
We did, yeah.
But yeah, anyway. So yeah, next week, like I went through the rundown, we're going to talk about somehow all of the Mummy movies. There are what, five of them. So that's our homework for the week. Watch 5 Mummy movies, If I don't have the Abbott and Costello one at all, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Yeah.
The new set has the Abbott and Costello on it.
Yeah, okay, that's what I have. I have the Blu-ray sets, and
yeah, but the Legacy one, the DVDs didn't have the Costello one.
But I can, even though there's like 5 Mummy movies, I can pretty much guarantee you that we probably won't spend a whole lot of time on like the last one or even the one before it, because I think the last 2 in that series is a little weak. And
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see what you guys
do. Is that the one where he goes to Manhattan?
Yeah, no, the last one he goes to
Manhattan Mummy.
Yeah.
Are you talking about this one has the Abbott Costello?
No, the Mummy one has like the Abbott Costello meet the Mummy.
Yeah, no, I meant that Mummy version of this set.
Yeah, it's on that set.
Yeah, maybe I'll rebuy that then, because my Mummy set I found for like a couple of bucks. It's missing the slipcover.
Yeah, that's the one I got. It just has the 5 movies, I think.
Yeah. I do have individual copies. Just dropped it like that. This is glow in the dark. Anyway, so yeah, next week we're talking about the Mummy as we continue our march in appreciation for the Universal horror monsters, which I'm very happy we're doing because they don't get enough love these days. Nobody ever talks about Universal movies. Even if I post something from Universal, it might get 10 or 15 likes on our Facebook page, but not many people comment on it. You know, I asked the question, "What's your favorite Universal monster?" One person said something, and they said it was Gill Man. So mine's Dracula. I'll just go ahead and say that I've always been a big fan of Bela Lugosi's Dracula, and I love Dracula in general. It all came from Christopher Lee. But yeah, so maybe one of these days we can do a whole show and watch all the Christopher Lee Dracula movies. I know
I would actually really like to jump into Hammer because that's one of the areas I don't know a whole lot about. Like I do have like a collection of the Dracula movies. I've seen, I think, most of the Frankenstein, which are the ones I really liked because I love Peter Cushing's Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Curse of the Werewolf. I think I have that one.
That's good. Yeah, that one was surprisingly good.
I love Oliver Reed. I always loved that guy. I think he's amazing.
The good thing about that is they did their own more of their own thing with the Curse of the Werewolf rather than and a lot of the Hammer stuff they didn't have the rights to tell the stories from the Universal movies because Universal was kind of being asses about it, so they had to tell their own stories, and that's part of why in the Horror of Dracula, and that's why it's called the Horror of Dracula rather than just Dracula. They switch things around a little bit. Characters are not the same characters as they are in the Universal movies, but I think they're very strong. It's great watching Christopher Lee as this ravenous Dracula with almost no lines. At the same time, he's very charismatic. And he also takes flights of stairs 3 steps at a time. And plus, the man knows how to wear a cape.
Tall dude.
Christopher Lee, he's my favorite actor of all time, so I could gush about him all day. But anyway, yeah, so next week we'll talk about the Mummy. As much as I'd love to talk about the Brendan Fraser movies, we're talking about the 1932. Yes. Yeah, that movie was okay. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't terrible. But yeah, we'll talk about some Boris Karloff action and then get into Lon Chaney plays the Mummy in a few of them, doesn't he?
Yep.
It's like his name, and this is the original Lon Chaney, right? Is that no?
No, it's Junior. It should be right.
Junior.
Yeah.
Okay.
His dad played.
Lon died before these were made, right?
Yeah. I think he died in the 30s, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he only did a few talkies or something.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think he's most well known for playing the Phantom, isn't he?
And Quasimodo.
Yeah, Quasimodo. So anyway, join us next week. We're going to be into October finally. I'm very excited. I love October. Weather's changing already. Got the hoodies out, and it's time to start watching some black and white movies. I'm going to be watching the Hammer movies as well, because that's how you rock October as a horror fan. Sure, you can watch Halloween, but that's for the end of the month. So Yeah, remember the Mummy, then with Frankenstein in it, and then Halloween Ends review, and then Dracula, and then we're going to end the Universal month with the Invisible Man movies, and maybe if I can twist some arms, we'll get to do a ranking of the Universal movies, like top 20. I love ranking stuff. So I know, and both you guys do. Don't even deny it. So anyway, that's it for us. We'll see you next week. I'm enjoying this so far. If you haven't seen Creature from the Black Lagoon, do yourself a favor, watch that. Watch Revenge of the Creature, and watch Creature Walks Among Us. They're all good, almost even all the way across. I think maybe, yeah. Anyway, Seth, anything before we go?
Yeah, Evil dies tonight, man.
Oh fuck.
40 years ago.
Well, now in the new one, it's 44 years ago. So
44 years ago.
Yeah.
And he needs to die, and I'm the one that needs to kill him.
Oh God.
You do need to, because he did you wrong.
May as well have left her his sister.
And him and her.
As tied to the character of Michael Myers as she is, they may as well have left her his sister. I have to be the one to kill him. It's like, okay, Laurie Myers. Anyway. Also, I'm going to watch the Rob Zombie Halloween movie, my yearly viewing. Let's see if it's any better for me this year. It gets better every year, believe it or not.
I've always liked it.
I know, and I think Seth, you like it too for the most part, right?
Yeah. I mean, with the first one, I only have a problem with the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it's just a little too much. But they're definitely straight up horror movies. You know, after Resurrection, Rob Zombie brought back the horror to the Halloween franchise. So
yeah,
they're not for everyone, but yeah,
I don't know. That one's growing. I mean, I remember leaving the theater pissed when I saw that. So, but yeah, I'm gonna give it another shot, and I'll watch both versions of the second movie as I do every year because one of them's better, and I can never remember which one it is. So I watched both.
Cut, I believe.
Is the director's cut?
Yeah.
I know Keith. That's his favorite Halloween movie or something.
Yeah, because the director's cut has like that really great scene with Brackett.
When she's dying, when Annie dies. Yeah. Bitch should have died in the first movie. Anyway. All right, guys. It was fun talking to you as usual, and we'll see you next week as we talk about the 5 Mummy movies from Universal Studios. Have a great night, and remember, watch some horror this weekend.